So, hopefully, we'll see a very stable stream today. Just moved my whole get up to right next to where the router is. I'm lucky to have this sort of hardware where I can do this. Mm. Anyways, I did say I would be streaming, and so I'm going to have a schedule, as I said in the title of this. Um, every couple days, I'll show up for at least a couple hours, see if I can get anybody interested in conversation. I spoke with Coley about her daughter, who's looking at college now. It was about a half-hour conversation, but the gist of it was that it's okay to tell people that we don't have a clear plan. And what that'll do is it'll actually encourage them not to take such a risk, is the hope. Like young people, there's a lot of options to basically put yourself directly into debt, especially the schools. I don't know how they justify it to themselves because it doesn't seem like graduates are having, that great of a time these days. I mean, yeah, it is for some, it has turned into something, but it's usually nepotism, you guys. It's networks that you have, it's who you met. It's a character testimonial coming from somebody who themselves has no character, who was also a nepo baby. They all benefit by doing it together, and it's a party you might get invited to if you're that quality of a character where they see value in you as an ally. Like having you stand beside them would make them look a certain way. That's true. I mean, we always shed light on everybody around us. The people that we choose to support reflect on us, and we need to be cognizant that we're karmically responsible for what those people end up doing, for what the reflection of us enables to happen. If you are a person of notoriety, then standing next to you might be a big deal. I don't want to be that person. I was kind of that person when I was younger because I was running the music scene. And it, it made it so I didn't really get to know anybody because everybody's like starstruck around you versus giving you their authentic best selves because everybody's really got much more going on than they're typically capable of bringing up around people. So, anyways, point is, you can tell them in that situation, 18-year-old looking at college, try to get that financial aid, try to avoid falling into crazy debt. Because there's nothing that you can only, college used to have a value proposition. It was the only place you met the leaders of the thinking world. We don't have a thinking world anymore, right? Like there really have been very, 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 very few new ideas in the past 80 years. It's all just people acting like renaming things. We had a huge thing around Six Sigma and manufacturing, and it was basically be good at your job. It's obvious rules for everybody, right? But they turn it into an entire industry. And then they celebrate that it's an industry. Everybody who's involved is getting paid. And if you say, why the fuck is this industry existing? Everybody goes, why aren't you part of the party? That's because I'm very lucky to have gotten to know what a real party looks like at a very young age. Cool. That I like. Let me get this so I can see. Gotta check my levels because I'm not monitoring. If I was a pro, I would be monitoring. One, you know, I have met a lot of pros, and anybody who's like tries to tell you everything about somebody based on one thing is an asshole, right? They're rushing ahead trying to get an image of themselves cemented in your head. The point is, when you got a little bit of game in you, you kind of play slow and you know, you make yourself look incompetent because that's how you draw low level players because they're the ones that it's ethical to exploit. Like when they try to take advantage of you, you just do it better in reverse. And it's really great when you can do that based on their action. And they actually do all the work, but you just end up with all the credit and value of the effort. That's what happens with, sinful games against other people. And I think that's just karmic. It's a good thing that it's there. It's my lentil soup. Got a carrot, potato, onions, and half a brick of fresh mozzarella. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I mean, if you don't want any advice, God bless you. Go do your thing. But since I have talked so much shit and upset so many people, and I feel myself sort of transitioning, for me, I've always been adapted to the moment we're in. So I knew AI was coming. I knew this transition was coming. This post employment situation was coming. And I railed about it until I was 40 years old. And now I'm not railing about that as much. I had like a personal divulgence as I kind of like stopped that and reevaluated my life the last couple of years. Good food. I think that's the way to describe my life. And I consider this was a engineered intentional distribution, let's say. Um, I moved a lot when I was young, like every 3 or 4 years through elementary school. I was in a new school. I moved cities, and then I started third grade in Catholic school. And then after sixth grade, I went to a public school, which was still in the same city, but totally different classmates. That was the last time I went to a new school, was sixth grade. Um, but you're still in a farming town and everything. You're still actually, pretty, everybody else has known each other. There were some other transients through the area, not a bunch of them, but anyways, yeah, so young, moved around a lot, made groups of friends. We had games and stuff, but the games were all, it was really great seeing the advent of gaming seeing how games started, every new game is a whole new layer, dimension. Doom was two-dimensional. I mean, I had small steps, but you would just walk over them. I think you would move slightly up in your perspective, maybe, but it wasn't like a jump button. That wasn't until Duke Nukem 3D. Fortnite has building, it's there's that's about the one of the more recent ones. All the sliding and stuff, the wall running. Those are as those mechanics have come out. I've been a gamer all the way back to Super Mario. So you see, like, especially as I became an electrical engineer, I learned about the technology and just knew we could do it a lot of different ways. I always knew consoles made no sense. They're just now finally crashing. But consoles were never gonna be a long-term proposition, and we should have all been transitioned to PC base long, long ago. Windows 11, the mess with Microsoft, you know, they're just a terrible company. There's no reason to gender any support or participation with Microsoft. Um, they could have built a solid OS by now. They did, you know. Fuck. Around 2000, like NT was solid. And I'm sure what's making this stuff work less is their bullshit they got running to try to glean more value from the user. Zero drop frames, 12 minutes. That's what we like to see. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's tons of white light because we're in a blizzard and it's not snowing right now. So the sunlight's hitting the snow and there's white everywhere. It's all reflecting the light from outside on me. It's washing me out entirely. Hooray! So yeah, 20s I went wild. I mean, I was a gamer and a nerd in my teens, and I got educated, and I went to college, and I was an engineer. And then in my 20s, I went totally wild. Um, at first, it was creative stuff where I was traveling with artists and, getting backstage, always at the after party, through a lot of after parties myself. My 20s were wild. I ended up downtown for a couple years. I traveled to Africa, became a whistleblower with work. I traveled all over the country. I did a little bit of international work. That was when I went to Africa. That was the one time I went international for that company. Um, but besides that, I mean, around the Midwest. So I'd just be put up in a hotel and working crazy long hours. My life was terrible. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not something about my life is that I've worked very hard to finagle it into where I'm at. And a lot of that with the 20s, while I was having that wild time, I was also working a certain way. But I'd spent all that money by the time I was 28, but also paid off my student loans and worked then for 6, 7 years until just recently, a couple of years ago. Um, yeah, I took some breaks there, but my 30s were very introspective, and I had a lot of time to get to know myself, which I feel very thankful for. When I would have interpersonal drama with people, I had the time to work through it by myself. And I had the internet. I keep YouTube basically running, although I don't study as much, but just kept learning new skills, continuously working on my neuroplasticity, keeping my brain alive. And that's what you should do. That's the perfect for your 30s. And 40, I kind of shed my childhood. That's when I think I really transitioned to being an adult for myself was 41. I'm not sure where I'm going next, but I think that the connectivity, being transparent enough to share it with the world, I think a lot of people have hidden for a lot of reasons. The politics are truly shameful at this point. It is, I think it's a total misdirection. They're not really changing anything with what's going on in Minnesota. They're doing that because people are talking about that instead of how much their groceries are going up and other sources of inflation. It's there's no concentrated discussions. I mean, even the healthcare thing. A few people that were heavily impacted are totally quiet about it on Twitch, but I don't see any discussion about it. Don't you realize that's what they're doing? Is it worth it to deal with a couple of lawsuits in Minnesota and sacrifice a couple of these fucking Nazis? I mean, fuck the ice people, number one, right? But fuck them. So, but they will sacrifice that community in order to keep the rest of the country talking divided in the conversation, unable to deal with things that are already at everybody's home front right now. Ask what is already at everybody's front door. It's the inflation that we've been seeing for years now that is ratcheting up very, very fast. By the time people even begin talking about it, most people are going to be firmly debt slaves. There's going to be rampant foreclosure and evictions. It creates all sorts of new avenues for them to attack people. They're going to say you're complaining because your situation, when it's no, the system's really been busted, and we should have dealt with it a long, long time ago. We just didn't. So, but when we get to it, and what I've been trying to build since my 20s is this sort of eco village, and it shouldn't be that difficult. It's why I'm already cooking. Yeah, ending up on some acreage with 20 great people, that would be ideal. Small village of human beings just living and cooperating, working together, actually. And a lot of people who will do that are not necessarily the greatest contributors. I'm welcome on pretty much any team. I'm a pretty strong, all day working electrical engineer, very handy. I could build the eco village basically by myself now, for the most part. I mean, after watching all these different, I wanted to do it a long time ago, but since I couldn't do it, I just watch everybody else's efforts. I watch other people's homesteading, other people's permaculture, and I still get to learn on how we do it. But to go out and just build it by myself is, a cart before the horse. I don't know that there's going to be this American community that even wants to live the way that I intend to live. The way that I intend to live is very non-standard to Americans. I'm not looking for like Hare Krishna shit. I'm not trying to not have property. But in managing collective property, in maintaining an actual community, there's interaction. I was talking to somebody in friendly Discord in Irish Mitts, and it was why it is that I'm the way that I am in relationships, where if a woman is very jealous, then we're gonna have conversations about that pretty quick. Um, and it's to the sense of giving a language to reinforce her confidence. If she is having trust issues at any moment, then you just got to deal with that at whatever level it's coming in at. But being able to talk to other women, even if they're attractive, even if they're charismatic, being able to have a thrilling conversation with the person across the table from me, as I can today, right? I can, one after another, I can have these conversations, and I'm a conversationalist. I'm really happy bouncing around these spaces. Although it's been a long time since I've really had that consistent of a chance to interact like that. Um, I've been a hermit. We'll see. I think it's still there. I think I'll fall right back into it. But yeah, so this moment, while people are struggling, being present enough to try to advise them for the best step they can do next. Because the real issue is at their front door. It's not any news story that's not making sounds and smells that are affecting their life. But it's the same issue. It's always been the same issue. We had collective efforts downtown. We had a garden, dozens and dozens of potlucks over the years, different parties that we'd throw, different benefit shows. When you do a benefit show, everybody trying to pitch in. It was still always silly amounts of nothing, you know. The kids never did the math. We'd throw a benefit show and raise like $200, and it took 10 people, 10 hours each. And it's like that's 100 hours, and you raise $200. Like, just get a fucking job and put your paycheck in the middle. At least that way, the money's not coming from your own community. Eventually, their community did not have enough to keep doing it. And we'll see what happens with all that in my past. A college buddy who says that I got him his degree. He said that a few times, quite publicly, to everybody. He's like, "This guy helped me through. I wouldn't have my degree without this guy." It's like, don't say that, because now if you fuck up, people are gonna know I'm how you cleared a hurdle that you maybe wouldn't have otherwise. His first job was working on MRI machines. He's an engineer and he's doing like maintenance work. But anyways, he contacted me around Facebook, and I'd written something recently. My life is made very public, not so much by my choice, but because I've dealt with a specific sort of gang stalking harassment, and people have, as I said, they try to get their story out ahead. And they did, because I'm not one to typically talk smack at all. I don't like it. I don't think it's constructive. I don't think it's even necessary. But when your character's being attacked, etc., and nobody's ever given you the chance to really debate it, you got to start making some serious adaptations in your life. And to any group that would, adopt a rumor about me and discard me over that, I just leave. which I think is the advice that everybody should take. Like, just walk away. If they can't treat you as they should, get the fuck out of there. Mm-hmm. There's not even blinds in here. But yeah, so on these journeys, you don't have to make it a big transition. I'm not on anywhere near as much of a ledge as some other people. People who did really dumb shit just went out in the woods and nearly died. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that have gone that way, tried to make their own way in the woods and not been connected and disappeared in the woods. So we can take on small projects that don't disrupt our current lives, but rather look at what you need to do today. Food, water, shelter, company. These are the fundamentals, not a job per se. We're going to enter situations where one person, if we leave that guy insecure who's trying to prove something, and I've worked around these people who are always eating steak, who live high on the hog. I think it's shameful. Right? I'm eating lentil soup. I'm back to beans and rice for myself. Um, with some cheese in there and some other good stuff, of course, but I'm not sitting here eating, ribeye on a regular basis. I really don't eat meat that often. I eat a lot more eggs than I eat meat, and beans and fresh walnuts, pecans. But I mean, who else has any inclination to change their diet to this sort of a thing? Are you people who are trying to like keep their body in a certain shape are really doing almost like a science experiment process? Mm. So you try to mix in food like this. This is a bunch of cheese. There's coconut oil and the makes it good. But most people would just choose not to have the cheese. They'd say, "Oh, it's impossible. It's expensive." This fresh mozzarella is cheaper than ground beef. Personally, that's just pretty incredible. I cut down cheese, but really what did it was trying to get enough protein. I really think the protein suggestions are way out of sync. Like maybe the max protein, like you're not going to lose weight or lose muscle mass, is based on people who have been at the gym building up to their peak. My body's been balanced with whatever my lifestyle is. I don't do that shit at the gym where I'm throwing weights around. I move all day. I'll balance on one leg. I'll use my yoga roller. I'll pet the hell out of the dog. The dog is getting like a full body massage every day. That's a wonderful way to get some exercise, is take care of your pet. Hmm. 0 drop frames. There we go. Man, I was starting to get worried. I was dropping frames. I was like, oh my God. Why can't I do this right? We got to get around to a decent image on this stuff too. Is that really all that thing can do against all that white? It's not even that bright in here, it feels like. Color range, default. See, brightness I had turned down. Should be about like that to be realistic. Or at least where it was. Gamma? Hmm. What kind of filters we got? Video delay. Here we go. Luma key. Apply LUT, maybe that would be it. Tone mapping, image mask line, Luma. Anyways. Not quite a pretty image because of the lighting. That's just a big sea of white. It's a snowstorm. Which is cool. Which is cool. I'm cool with that. Cool enough. Yeah, so food, shelter, more DIY stuff. Every time something breaks, you got to get it maintained. So if you're a homeowner, it's a good time to be making friends who have skills, who could maybe help you with repairs if you can't get a contractor, which is more and more likely all the time, what with the racism that's coming from the Fed openly. At the end of the day, it's a economic gut punch that has been brewing for the last year and a half now, and people still are not coordinating to respond to it, and they're gonna have to. Like, you have got to coordinate a response to this because otherwise your diminishing returns are going to just kill you. And the question is, how closely do you do your accounting? Do you notice the creep in expense, or are you desensitized and just using a credit card every time you go to the grocery store? And at a certain point, you do realize that what used to be $80 is now 120, right? I mean, you start to get a gut feeling when it starts to change, but everything that's happened and more is coming. And we're talking about a real tragedy in Minnesota. One person. And I don't want to diminish it in any way. Just understand this is the game that we're playing. That the other side is quite literally willing to do all this in order to continue doing the other things. Like, for what you know, if you think what you know is bad, then the fact is, they're telling you the less bad part. Their distraction is minor compared to the real thing going on. It is a distraction, and they're intentional about it. See how it goes. So you know, in your community, when you think about it, up until just a couple of years ago, it was still a gung ho independent mentality in America. And that there's pride that a lot of people have about that gung ho stuff. But if you try to approach it individually, your lawnmower sits for 99% of the week. Maybe it's 98%. What, you mow for what, an hour once a week for half a year? Say 8 months we'll give you. 32 weeks, 32 hours in a year of running one day. It's less than 1%. So you have a lawnmower, and everybody next to you has a lawnmower, and like we are in such a crazy moment, people still don't realize that they got to figure out how to share the fucking lawnmower. And maybe the lawnmower is too expensive to start, so share a shovel, share a job, share a task, raise a barn. I mean, these, when you do these small things, even if you're just making art, have a party together, have a potluck, and just socialize and check in with the community. You know what I mean? None of this is complex, but it's fundamentally different to the individual ambitions of just another Western cocksucker, right? We do not want to make another Epstein, Weinstein, or Dan Clancy. We don't want any of this shit, right? It's despicable that these motherfuckers who are robbing children, who are thumbing the scales of culture, destroying everything fair and beautiful about life in their entire environment with their out of control power dynamics. We're not trying to build that, right? How do you get away from all that realistically? Until we what I can do. Something like that. Yeah. Let's go in the middle here. That's cool. I can work with that. And you know what else I can do? Set my setup here. Sorry, I should have muted that. So yeah, you know, the things that everybody should be thinking about, and even if your life is not this impacted right now, if you go down through your neighborhood, it's very likely that, and it doesn't matter what your neighborhood is, it's very likely that you have neighbors that are currently struggling. I've reached out into my neighborhood, did not get much response. Maybe that's because everybody's struggling. In my case, probably because they're all retirees and boomers and they have no desire or hope to connect with anybody. But, you know, this is something that if it's happening, it will be outwardly visible. It will be productive. It will be world changing, for that community if you actually get this going. Because you're going to get rid of the assumptions. You don't have to have a job. I look forward to the day when we have whole generations growing up that never had to lick a fucking boot their entire life. Who never even had the challenge. These loser fucking fascists. But yeah, so talk to your neighbors if they could, if their diet could use improving. I mean, you got to convince, they got to want this stuff. You got to want this stuff too. Do you want to get hands on your diet? Would you rather be making your food? It's time to learn this, you know? I mean, I'm not saying anybody's got to do these things, but in a very real sense, if you just go back to when I started looking at this stuff in the 90s, late 90s, a pack of cigarettes, the cheapest packs of cigarettes were $3. The most expensive were 7 or 8, maybe, like imports, like that we had at the gas station I worked at. Anyways, there are more expensive, but now the cheapest pack is $9, 3 times the size for the most, for just a basic option. The coffee, I mean, it was 89 cents for a large 32-ounce coffee. Now it's $3. There is very little new expense. Coffee has gone up some, but I also think production of coffee has expanded so much that I don't know that there's all that much change. But again, a 3 times difference. Processed foods, it's the same. It's multiple times more expensive. And processed food has got all sorts of additives and other things that make it much more unhealthy. So you spend money to buy substandard quality, covered in poison food. Preservatives are poison even after you eat them. And preservatives stop microbial action by being general poison. Right? So when you're eating all this over-processed shit, seed oils, get those out of your life, right? And what happens when everybody starts actually pushing towards this to the supply chain? That's going to be a question. But the more that we are coordinated with our local food service, the less waste there will be. We can optimize all this, but we have to actually be the ones in control of it. And so you got to learn for yourself. You should be able to. Do you know how to make some beans and rice? I've started just. I took it very seriously recently, and I'm very happy with where I'm at. I'm making a garbanzo bean tofu. Right now, I've got pinto beans soaking in the fridge. I bought a 20-pound bag of the pinto beans, but the pinto beans give me gas. So I don't know if try to soak them to get rid of a lot of that, but it doesn't. Anyways, maybe it's the pinto beans and the garlic and the onions is what does. I don't know. It's delicious and it's good protein. It's low cost. So you learn how to make these things for yourself, maybe, and you share them with your neighbors. Make cookies first. Make an energy bar cookie, and sell them to your neighbor at a flat cash price, $10 for however many. Start by giving them a couple. Say, hey, if you would like more of these, let me know. I want to produce a lot more of these. They say, how are you producing them? You say, well, I'll put a camera on my setup. And then you turn a camera on. I could, just as I'm eating right here, I could be washing my cook surface. I could, on camera, I could have multiple views of what I'm cooking with, and they could see everything that goes on with their food. Now you're making content too, right? I mean, how many live streams are just somebody working a flat iron or doing these things, right? This is actually something to share, it's something to celebrate, and um, it addresses immediate issues. It gives you immediate payoff when you start making your own food at the quality and the cost. Um, Also, the ability to, with the way that I have the rice and beans, I mean, I've got 2 months of rice and beans in the right now. So, I could, in a pinch, survive. And that's another benefit. And the way to plan is to, try to cover all the bases, build a complete defense against what you can foresee as being issues. Um, I'm big on the idea that you've got to consider that you might face three types of disruption right now: economic, ecological, weather disruption. Like, you should be, if you're building a building, it should be double the spec at this point. I mean, if you want it to last 100 years, it should be double the fucking spec. And the third is technologies, new technologies that are going to come in, and because as I say with my account, my album release, you develop a talent, but never assume that having a talent means that you're going to get paid for it, that you'll find a way to express it. I mean, you may even contribute with your talent and you might still not get paid. Lots of masters have been masters of their trade only to find out that they were betrayed. You got to play that whole spectrum in the real world. And that's why the game is so complex. It's why the game hasn't sorted out yet, is because we tend to fixate on one side or the other. And because of that fixation, it opens up an emphasis on the opposite side. And, during the times like the times that we're in, consider that the true opposite of what we've been told is actually the most effective strategy to pull out of the tailspin. Get your community free, because if you're starving, if you're stressed, if you are in that mode of survival already, you're not going to be any help on an actual team trying to build a better future for the kids. And it's shameful. It's truly shameful to get in the way when you're never going to be any help, because there are noble efforts and they get bled to death by people who don't feel responsible for terrific harm that they cause on a regular basis with their just out of control toxicity. I'm absolutely that kind of person who, and I do it constantly. I mean, a healthy being will push its boundaries. I don't judge people for pushing their boundaries. I just try to stay on top of checking people back into the spaces they should be in. And that's because on this eco-village space, we don't want to have bullies or anything like that either. I'm practicing for all the skills that I would need in this environment. And I've been doing that my entire adult life, and my experiences are pretty second to none. So I feel like I should do this. I'm hopefully going to get some people to support it so we can get enough finances to make it a real thing. And we can just show the world that, let's focus on these basics in this locality. And you watch what the young people that come out of this community are going to be incredible. And they'll be incredible exactly because they will not be dealing with the stresses that are just normal now that we've left. We've damned so many of our loved ones to with our ridiculous behaviors the last 50 years, where we should have been building to last. We should have been building redundancies. We should be flush. The only way that the tortoise beats the hare is the hare fucks up somewhere. And we're seeing Bricks, the tortoise, beat NATO, the hare, all around the map. I don't like it. It's just understanding that you can say that there very likely will be very little help for our local communities. As I'm saying to you, right? I gotta stop. I always have a monitor thing, camera. I gotta stop looking at that. I'm trying to look at the camera for this. Hmm. As I speak to a person, right, and eye contact, you can always believe that what I'm doing has an ulterior motive. You can doubt me. You can make shit up. But if what I'm talking about is a physical phenomenon, take the sun rising, the moon cycles, a reliable clockwork phenomenon. If you play political games, you stay ignorant. So realize this. In America, they told you that you should feel superior because you're being cooler by not caring. The trap of that is when we're really in a moment and somebody comes and tells you the exact issue and you still are acting too cool. The karma is that while I'm already adapting my life, celebrating the abundance that is normal now, I'm already uh, eating, cooking during my days, not waking up to an alarm. I'm already living pretty good. I've done crazy work. I've worked like a dog for a decade of my life. Made me realize that I also like to spend a few years enjoying myself. And I've done it pretty successfully, and I don't have wealth of that sort. I've got a little bit of time left to get situated. That's the question. Where am I gonna go? But I'm hoping that, the thing is, this should be a widespread cultural conversation. And once it is, then wonderful. I just want to be a part of that. Um, and we can have the conversation here. And whatever your project is, I'll try to help you get your project done. Doesn't have to have anything to do with me, right? But getting you started on the process of self improvement would be wonderful. How long has it been since you made a small change that you're able to make in a day or two that made your life better in 4 days and then continued from that point on enriching your life? And enriching in the sense of not just, you know, some people would say I'm enriching my life eating fast food. Your vitality will be different when you eat real food and it's less processed. And you are also, when you can make it yourself, when you're no longer looking at a receipt every time you eat, where you look at food outside and you go, wow, I could eat that. Because it all is just shit you see out there. And we can get to a point where we're growing dandelions and all sorts of edible foods in our yards. Grass is just so painfully dumb. But I mean, I don't know where we're going to compromise, but compromises are going to happen. And the act of the compromise, the freedom of that humility, is that you stop throwing so much money after superficialities that will never really serve your life, that will get you lip service from people who are at the edge of despair, right? I mean, you have armies of people who have no economic traction at this point. So if you're going to go out and spend money, you can get your dick sucked. You can get your dick sucked all day now. This is one of the moments that there's just shit that is real. We have these fascists who can't figure it out yet, getting no action, being really angry about that. Fuck you guys. But I mean, the point is, if you just go and you drop $10 in an average stream, you're going to get some positive interaction from somebody. If you go and drop a $20 tip at a restaurant right now, you're gonna get more attention. You know what I mean? So, what is the goal? What's your ambition? We all need to get that recognition. I was very fortunate that I was able to earn mine by throwing shows. Like, I was helping young artists, young promoters put events together when I was 20 years old. And because of that, I was really a cornerstone of the community. And because I was really a cornerstone of the community, people listened to me. You want to know how to get women? Get listened to. Most of them are just looking at how other people treat you. Most everybody is, right? Most men are just worried about what their bros are going to say about her, much more than how she actually is. That's how they end up in these terrible situations over and over again. Because it's superficial. You gotta look into the deeper levels of life. It's a blessing to be alive every day. So yeah, I mean, if other people want to start projects, let's work on those. I always share mine. A lot of times I just talk about it, right? Because more it's about me being present in these communities, especially around young people, and pushing the ideas having this perspective and standing behind it, right? People can criticize it, they can have their own perspective, and I encourage debate on level. That's very healthy. It's healthy for me. It's how I keep my. I learn periodically, too. Not from everybody. It's most people who claim that they want credit for it are a bit overreaching it, but it's not worth fighting people who are looking for ego acknowledgement. Not that it even matters. Nothing's new under the sun. One hour in, just talking. So your projects, my projects, the benefit comes when we're both running. Think about it like a science discussion, scientific method. Once we're both investigating, we're both generating test scenarios, we're working twice as fast. We're entering a new one where there's differences in our execution, and those differences can shake out to things to learn about the next time. You know, we can compete on performance, on numbers. We share knowledge. And I've been proposing this stuff my entire adult life. Just I've gotten very, very little uptake on it. People will learn painfully that you're either eating whatever the shit is they serve you at a restaurant where they're barely paying the kitchen staff, where the kitchen is not clean. Right? You are ingesting sanitizer. You can eat that if you want and spend all that money to eat that. Be the only people left in the restaurant in an era where people are the numbers at these restaurants are just beginning to fall, and they're going to end up falling a lot. People are going to have to figure out how to eat at home. And that's just another stress. Get it done now. I don't need any help with that. Beans and rice, corn, green beans, carrot, potatoes, onions, garlic. All things that I can basically grow anyways. Pinnacle of quality. Pretty optimized cost. Considering just me, right? But if I actually had any locals who would get into it, which, man, I would love to be showing it to you guys. This is why I beat up the people around me. There aren't good people around me. Like they're not charitable. They're not compassionate. They're not faithful. They don't have any right to be in a church. Because it would be really nice to show you guys this while a whole community, as it was when I was 20 years old. I didn't have to sell what we were doing. I didn't have to sell it once. And that's the way it is with something that's that intrinsically valuable. The life-affirming nature of the real party. You should have it. And you can do it around, let's learn how to cook up something new and interesting. Sugar, salt, and get your fat. You can make anything taste good. And salt's a wonderful preservative. Because yes, too much salt will uh, kill everything, right? If you found yourself in a bag of salt, you'd be in issues really fast. Um, but the different means of preservation. Old school is just cover it in salt. Now it's the nitrates, the sulfites, the sulfates, things that we know are pretty bad for your immune system. So I should go get my tarot. But yeah, so small things that you can do. Hopefully, we can find commonality in the online sphere and get numerous different locations improving along a certain common rail, learning from each other's experiences, and look for those low hanging fruit. And the thing is, when I say to you that I want to take your Taco Bell out of your hands and get you cooking, a lot of people are going to think they can never make food as good as Taco Bell. You know what the big trick is there? They got you afraid of MSG and salt. That's what it is. A little bit of sugar, a little bit of MSG, plenty of salt. You won't need to go out. Going out will give you nothing. And once you do that, once you actually cook the way that they cook at these restaurants with those couple of considerations, which are not very toxic, not bad for you, then you start really thinking about why you're spending all that money and start doing that math. $10, that meal was $10. How much of your time did that take? How much of your life did that $10 take? And look at the food and could you make it for cheaper or something close enough to it to satisfy you? And that's a lesson that in America, the sooner we get it, the less we bury ourselves in debt. And a lot of people today are already buried in debt. And for them to get out of, they don't own their house, they're leasing their cars, they have a car payment, they don't own anything, but they go to work and they manage to pay their bills till just about recently, right? Well, pressure's not going to stop. There's no indication that any bills are going to come down in the near future. It's very likely that as America is repositioned in the global stage, that all of us have to shift all these things. And if you just do it beforehand, then you're not stressed, not as compromised in that rush to try to make it work when it's instead of being certain that it already works. And it's that stress of learning. Anytime you're learning, anytime you're changing your habits, there's a back pressure on your body. It's causing stress. Cheeks feel locked. So learn the basics while you can, and have the basics so when you're in the middle of the apocalypse, you're not stressing out over how to cook beans. You're stressing out over the unseen new, combinations of this situation that are forcing our evolution now. So you either suffer this or you lead it. It's what I said in 2009, and it's been the case. And how you lead it, you yourself have got to do something. You've got to take personal responsibility. This is a grassroots call, 100% grassroots. Like, you're the boss, not me. I'm I'm for free telling you how to do this shit yourself. You just choose not to do it. You prefer the taste of the fast food. I do too. I just know better. And because I've known better for long enough, I've dodged very serious pitfalls that many people took right to the face. I've most of my peers that took on serious student loan debt are still paying off their student loans. It's fucking incredible. And that was 20 years ago. Like, there's no time for kids in college right now. How the tuition is higher than it's ever been, right? And the employment horizon is a sea of laid off professionals now of every sort. There's a glut of professionals. All we need is some tradespeople so boomers can get their house repaired, right? It's the only place where there's employment, etc., and that's only for a little while longer. Changes that we'll see the sooner that you begin working with your community. A few community members are going to have to go to work and get that cash and bring it home, but cut out overhead. Or don't. Good luck. Do whatever the hell you want, really. But just there's almost guaranteed zero chance if you don't correctly identify the dynamics and respond appropriately. I'm gonna go get the tarot. Ooh, got this uh, Mocha, my puppy, doll, old fat Labrador, passed out. It's the most adorable thing. I was a little bit disappointed she didn't bother me for chicken strips. This is her golden parachute, and so I'm not buying her food and stuff. I mean, it's a few $100s a month that this dog absorbs with her supplements and everything. Can't imagine that for a dog, right? I mean, $4,000 a year, let's say, cash outlay just to maintain, right? That's not if the dog gets sick or anything. But, should I, and the chicken jerky, dog chicken treats are so expensive. I wonder if there's like a fresh biscuit that I could make that would be competition for it with her, because I tell you what, she was eating my cooking, doing all this other stuff, the tofu she would eat, the cooked potatoes, the green beans, carrots, fried eggs. And then when the chicken came back, she would not eat that stuff and just keep bothering me and want to go out, in and out, in and out, in and out, just expecting chicken eventually and getting it. And stepping out of the room, it's hilarious because, I'm out of the room for a little over an hour and she just passes out and she's sleeping. If I was in there for 20 minutes, she'd be awake and bothering me again. Labradors are driven by their stomach. But I mean, she's on her, like I said, you got a healthy being will push its boundaries. I'm trying to make her as healthy as she can be. And it's wonderful when that turns into a very natural emotional manipulation to get what she's looking to get out of the arrangement. There's no ethical, you know, I don't believe in a natural ethics. Nature and its competition, life and its competition, like the scorpions feel bad when they're eating another bug. Do lions feel bad when they're eating a gazelle, whatever its age would be, right? It's something where in nature we don't see the sort of noble limitations. And that's what you have to really begin to understand, is that nobility is symbolized by its self-imposed limits, and it is beyond nature. Honor is beyond nature. Honor is not natural. Honor is human willpower injecting structure and creating a impetus for the next generation to pay homage to that structure, to honor that structure of ethics and morals. That we really talk about Grecian morals and stuff, but and we act like we're rooted in Greek culture, but our value system is totally opposite. It's very alien to how Greeks lived, especially the ones we look up to, like all the ones who did anything incredible. Most of them were Stoics, ascetics. They were not just about consumption or bodily experience. That's just basic stuff. So, nature, the way I see nature as working is in consequence, and it's always an imposed will. There's always some factor which imbalances the chaos. And around me, it's me, right? Like my will is being imposed. If I'm there, I'm pretty much willful. But it's, if anybody begins to troll, streamer, then I'm very quickly getting involved. That's absolutely a moral. I have a moral chance. I choose to invest in it. It's not an unconscious behavior, right? Like, and I'll do it and I'll play it off like it's unconscious or it's a small thing. But I hit awfully consistently, right? I just also very consistently play it off afterwards to minimize the ego harm, to help the whole scenario to pass through the community's collective conscious as quickly as possible. Because we don't gain by leaving the conversation in these stressed out moments. So you have a choice to author your morals, your ethics. And I very much encourage you to do so. My point is, if your morals and ethics are not harmonious, if they are exploitative, if they do not foster synergy, your community will fundamentally be lesser than that community which has a culture which does those things, which allows the individual strengths to shine, emphasizes true progress, a progress we have not been able to have in the West. We should have power. There's nothing new about generating electrical power. And it's so disappointing because the men who should have been smarter in my life, who talked about, don't you know we don't have enough power for electrical cars? Just totally missing the point. America, in the 1990s, if I would have told you that America was going to be struggling to have enough power for industry, to have enough power. And do you know that American power is 5 times as expensive as Chinese power? Do you know that's why we will never be competition? Because even if we do automate, running the machine is 5 times as expensive power-wise. The future of American economy is dwindling. And I don't know any better way than to go online and make this whole point. And I've been making this exact same point for my entire adult life because it was pretty evident when I was 20. I mean, my first business, I was 20 years old, and the business was a collective because that was just obviously the way to organize to make it efficient. I'm just a fucking gamer, a good gamer. So I understand how these structures of numbers work. I understand how pay works. I had some investors wanted me to start a Five Guys, and the reason I didn't was because I didn't want to have a staff that I was paying $9 an hour. I would be the bad guy then. These business owners did not help their employees. They helped themselves at the expense of their employees. Very, very, very different truth. And them trying to make it out like they did something noble. There's nothing noble in business ownership. There's nothing noble in being a landlord. Nobility is removing limits from others, right? And it's a limit, the limit of, right, if you were to put me unrestrained in the environment with all my aggression and all my strength, I am a very natural imposition to everybody in the environment. So I limit myself. And what that does is it breaks the limit for them. Does that make sense? By being of a caliber where I can be that aggressive male, but typically not expressing that way, I'm opening up space because when other people do it for their first time, they're nervous. And guys who are more experienced may try to take advantage of that. That's what's different. You reach a certain state of nobility where you're like, I don't even want to win. I don't know any winners anymore. People are so bitter because they never get a W. And they just got to tell themselves that. They can take drugs and feel it. You can manufacture your W. You can delude your W. You just got to choose to. That's willpower. Will to power. And that practice of whatever life is, take a bite out of it and speak your truth. Use the press, the internet, which now is your megaphone. And what are you going to talk about? Hopefully not a bunch of dumb shit about yourself, like anything about you isn't fucking trite. All these self-important losers, these fucking clowns live streaming, what the fuck? Why is anybody in these streams? I'll tell you why. Because it's soft. The soft have always globbed up into a little dung beetle mass. That's what the soft do. Because you gotta cut your teeth somewhere. But who even gets outside of their house? Who is really living anymore? Certainly not me. Not like I was in my 20s. That was wild. I had more energy. Everything was different. I swear to God. So, we'll do another Chat GPT. Celtic Cross reading. One last cut. Eight of Cups. Chariot. Justice. Ten of Wands. Lovers reversed. Strength reversed. Page of Pentacles. Nine of Cups. Star reversed. Lots of major arcana. King of Pentacles. So, Cosmic Tarot and the way I do tarot in my readings, as a response to the conversation that was had. So for me today, it's just been me talking into the camera. So let's see what the tarot says according to ChatGPT. You can look it up, what the meanings of the cards are yourself. This is all pretty standard. Eight of Cups. You're walking away from something that once mattered, not drama, recognition that it's empty now. The old way is dead. The Crossing is the Chariot. Forward motion is available, but only through discipline. Willpower beats emotion here. Take the reins or stall. Root, Justice. This pivot isn't a whim, it's a correction. You're rebalancing after something skewed, ethically, structurally, or personally. I'd say all three. Personally, because of my ethics, I made it in response to the structure. Past, 10 of Wands. I carried too much for too long. Obligation without reciprocity. Burnout was inevitable. Yeah. But I didn't expect people to listen to what I was saying. And maybe that started to lead into their response to it. Like the thing is, after so many years of saying the same thing, you sort of become whatever. It's hard to not fall into the trap of other people's perspectives. But yeah, yep. Definitely carried too much, burned out. That was the 40 thing, whatever. Conscious aim, levers reversed. You know what choice was wrong or misaligned? Okay. This is about severing the false union, person, path, or value system. Severing a false union, like a false value system. And yeah, very much about, let's get out of the idea of be proud of being an employee, be proud of being rich. No, you didn't do that much work. You stole a lot of money. Nobody earned more than 10 million in a lifetime, ever. Nepo babies are soft. I'd love to meet one of any character at all. And yeah, moving a punk rock attitude towards the future and a meritocratic attitude. And actually, like the Greeks, we're actually getting back to what they hoped to cultivate in their best people, which was magnanimity. Having the strength and the willingness to support the people around you, to sacrifice, to not take everything that you can get. Which I'm glad I learned that much later in life. Like, I have a responsibility to do all this as a karmic responsibility for how wild I was in my 20s. Near future, strength reversed. Energy is low, confidence dipped. This isn't weakness, it's recovery. Stop forcing outcomes. I don't think I'm forcing outcomes. But no, the point is this, getting what I'm proposed in this conversation is exactly the things that I was doing when I was 20 years ago. I would cook chili, like veggie chili, and cook from dry stock, not as effectively as I do now. But I would make a lot of food, maybe spaghetti, and feed the people at the community center. And so that's well, my point there is it's these are outcomes that I never tried to force on people. As I said, I mean, it's like you make your choice and the real karma is what hits you. But for now, I'll just in good faith keep generating these videos. We're not really changing the world. And I don't think that even if this did work, it wouldn't be me changing the world. It would be us learning how to harmonize in a way that is much less disruptive for the world. And it would, in effect, change the world. But it's not about ego credit for anybody involved. It doesn't get started by an individual. I am one more life in a chain of millions. Um, we got to be grateful for the civil rights movement, all of it. Martin Luther King. It's Martin Luther King Day. Is that what he was looking for? We got all this self-righteous bullshit. He wanted health care for people, basic benefits. I mean, do you think that if they would have understood that Americans and natives are being targeted and harassed now by federal forces intentionally? I mean, they talk about it happened sometimes before, but this is something totally different, I think. So, no, and with it, the point is I can't change the momentum of ICE or the momentum of Trumpism, etc., or the tech bros, who finding the good people who want to start building Square. That's where it all begins. And we won't be addressing them until much later. In the meantime, we've just really got to know who we want to keep out. And that's something that should be very, very sparingly used, right? But there are absolutely real toxic behaviors. I have mostly dealt with moderation over not very toxic behaviors. It's more characterizations, mischaracterizations based on who I am. Convenient for the politics of somebody in that community just makes stuff up and complains. Anyways, I may not be a lot of help for you guys right now. And it's given me to accept, that we're being kicked around in the game. Oligarchs are stealing so much from the country, but it can all be dealt with later. Remember that. Like have an okay today, and enjoy the good parts of your life as they come into your life. Don't waste the incredible, opportunities in life. Page of Pentacles, me, beginner mind, practical curiosity. You're ready to learn, build, and invest patiently without ego. Thanks, Tarot. Environment. Others see comfort or success around you. Be wary. Satisfaction nearby can dull ambition. I'm not satisfied nearby. The dog is a pain in my ass. Hopes and fears. The star reversed. Fear of losing faith or of hoping again. Cynicism is protective, but it also blocks renewal. Yeah, I got to give it a fair shake. Which, yeah, I think I can do that. I'm pretty good at that whole practicing to make sure I give it a pretty good, approach. That's why I keep my life simple. I don't have much drama anywhere in my life. I talk a lot of shit. I make my position clear and I stand on it. Bottom line, you're exiting an overburdened, misaligned chapter. Rest, recalibrate, then build slowly and correctly. The end state is solid, independent, and durable, but only if you stop carrying what isn't yours and choose that path that actually pays off over time. Yes. So, alerting others to it has been an ambition of mine, keeping it open source in the same way that I've been learning from these permaculture efforts or these other eco villages. I intended to share information. I mean, all along, I've hoped to get an actual social response so that we can dull the worst of the collapse that we're going to face. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. I don't think we have any time. So, I've got to humble myself and work to just figure out an angle where my life can work out. If I find that, I may disappear at any time because I certainly am not satisfied where I'm at. Um, and like I said, I mean, in the right conversation, my skill set, I'm about the ideal homesteading resource. I'm an industrial controls engineer. Like, I built custom machines, I troubleshot custom machines. We can put the machines in our facilities. We're not paying for me to do this stuff for you would be a lot of money, right? Like when my companies gave my time to other companies, they'd charge 150 an hour. And it was, oh man, the games we played with those people's money. If you get the job done, your team hates you. You're not supposed to get the job done at work. You're supposed to get paid, which is totally different from an ethics-based idea of work. And that's the really despicable part of the old people in our environment is they talk like there's ethics to be found when they're just as bad of criminals, right? They've all benefited from it, and the thing is, most of them have been able to take advantage of the position in time, and that the next generation doesn't have that same advantage is a generational imbalance that they don't even allow a conversation about. I don't intend to be gentle with the seniors who stole everything. I don't want to give them an escape from full empathy with the decades of suffering to follow their complete lack of character and sense. But we're not going to change the tone of the whole world, are we? Best we can do is leave a record that lets others know the way to get away. Hmm. But yeah, no, definitely heading towards something new. And in spite of the things I've done in my life, many of which I think a lot of people would say were they could call pinnacle accomplishments, several of them. For me, they've only woken up an awareness of the potential harmonies that our human organism is meant to live out its life within. The quote unquote herd, instinct that we have, which is undeniable, and yet with enough structure and diligence, you can change it all. You can get outside of the natural pattern and impose any structure you want. The Greeks did a great job, and it is diametrically opposed to our individualistic, ego-driven ambition. Because our ambition is very much to live through the experience and high and drunk and, all that. Achilles just fought till he died. There was no life of pleasure for him. That's why his name was remembered. Socrates fucking drank hemlock. He was so beyond giving a fuck. He said, fuck you guys. A life unexamined is not worth living. And you think you have won. And if they won for 800 years, 2,000 years, is that enough? Anyways, I am not, and I never have told other people it had to be any way. I just very cogently argued for harmony and criticized stupid plans for their stupidity, especially when they were proposed by people who had no business proposing as though they had some experience or understanding of leading large groups of people. The way that people get into a mob mentality is something to be attuned with. And they often do it in the face of irrefutable truth. It's the only way the mob wins against the sage. Right. And the sages won in Greece most of the time. Maybe a few times. I mean, Socrates did not win, did he? Plato was the sellout. Plato's the one who cashed in. But, at least he had some respect for Socrates. He just wished he was capable of recreating anything like what Socrates put together. Hello, Maria. How are you? I'm chilling. I got about 10 minutes that I guaranteed my stream, and it's been stable, so doing great. Found out what the issue was. I thought it might have been in Ubuntu, but it was my Wi-Fi was not stable enough. Good. I will be streaming now. I'm going to do it at least every other day for at least 2 hours. I don't know when it will be. It'll be rotating around the schedule. I do visit Australian streamers. I live in America, so I'm all kind of global. So yeah, cheers. This is a PC. I have various streaming technologies set up. So I'm an electrical engineer. I don't stream games very much. I will talk a lot, and I try to do projects. So things like cooking or building tech projects. Like one of my big recent projects is a mobile media station. Um, the Midwest in America. Oh, you're welcome to hang out. I'll hang out as long as you want. Building up the community online is about being available. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I try to do AMA sort of. I'll follow the conversation as it occurs. My approach. You're welcome to show your work. I do not have the financial situation to engage your work or the network of customers for it at this moment. So, I mean, you're welcome to share as you can. I don't know if I still have a Discord tied to any of this. I should probably have that. Get that set up for a community. That would be the place to share that sort of stuff. But yeah, I you know, I appreciate that. And actually, this whole stream was talking about how people have talents and how difficult it is to sell a lot of them. So, um, for it to be your work, know what you're trying to do with your work. If you are looking for paid graphic designer work, um, this just isn't the right place for it. This is more of like a community project sort of thing. So I know quite a bit about graphic design, and as I said, the projects that I would do on my streams, if if for example you wanted to make something in uh, Inkscape or GIMP or something, I'm familiar with all that, um, and especially now with ChatGPT, you can work on making the stuff. So that is the tilt that I have on my channel. It is about people sharing, what they produce, and God bless, finding traction in the market. I got to figure out a way to get some money too. I'm not even affiliate on Twitch, so if anything, I'd be just starting, and I have no intention of significant customization on Twitch. Thank you for stopping through, though. If that's it, not sure where you're at on this. If you want to send a link to like a Twitch channel in the chat, I think I have to give you a permission to send a link. Do do do. Guessing you probably took off already. I mean, does that make sense though? Um, so yeah, it's not a matter of judging the work, but uh, I mean, I'm all about small art and sharing art. I had my high school girlfriend got a designer arts degree, and she said her favorite quote was, "Art is love and design is sex." Mm. I even talk a little bit about before you came in. The last couple streams, I've been talking about having like Adobe Photoshop when I was younger. It's graphic design is a cool thing, um, and it used to be done so much better. Now it's just not performed as well. I mean, talk about graphic designers from the '80s. I knew a few. What's up, Tieska? Chilling. You're from Liz's, right? I think. Good to see you. Cheers. Hanging out, talking with Maria real quick. She just came in to show some controls stuff or design stuff for Twitch, and I was expressing that I may not be a great place for a graphic designer to find work at this point. I'm doing good. It's a blizzard outside. You know, the news is crazy. There's not a lot we can do about it. Um, going out and I myself am a very civil rights oriented individual, so I'm pretty much getting sent ballistic every couple days with the things that are happening right now in the U.S. Um, but I mean that's it's not in a negative way, I guess. Um, I just do wish that there was more hopeful news around us and there were things to tie into that were constructive without being so fundamentally tailored to benefit the top. Not so hierarchical where it's like, yeah, I could go try to help the world through this company, but then I'm making some rich guy just get all this credit, all the money, and then he just destroys all the progress anyways. So, but yeah, life's I personally I haven't worked in a couple years, and just realistically, I don't have much that I could complain about in my life. While it could be better, it's not terrible, and I don't deal with a lot of terrible stuff on a regular basis, largely because of things that I chose to do. But yeah, so I I'm hopeful that this moment of crisis clarifies for lots of people into how do we change our dialogue, how do we change our logistics, like can we get things done in a different way which cuts out expense for the whole community and economies of scale, right? I mean, we all know it's possible. Yeah, well, there's no it took me I've done 10, 11 years in white collar engineering, sales engineering work. And it would take me 3 to 4 months after I quit the job for me to begin to unwind. So, I mean, like with empathy, I mean, anybody who has spent years in corporate world, especially like international conglomerate sort of corporate world. I mean, you have multiple companies that are each different clans, and they're all only one manager from all the different clans gets to be the manager at the conglomerate, right? There's a few other middle managers, sure, but there's one CEO still. But now it's 10 companies in under one, and each of those 10 companies had a CEO and they had their full management structure. You put them all together. So working, just getting out of the work environment, getting out of the corporate work environment in the West right now, because if you were working, you'd show up to work and your manager, who might even be a decent manager, would still say dumb shit like, "Aren't you glad you have a job?" You know, crazy, crazy shit that should never be happening in America. That nobody should be facing at work, but is normal now for young people. And as they just, oh man, for me, that was totally my experience, was relentlessly carrying a heavier load, being taken advantage of by older people who at the end of the day just grabbed everything and ran. So promising a future that just never was going to materialize. So working and spending time at works, yeah, it's the thing is it's industry. It's top to bottom in industry now. And anybody having put time in around business, it's it's something that only people who have done it really have a awareness of just how uh, corrupted the dynamics are in those environments typically. So, but yeah, that getting outside of those work cultures into a fundamentally different approach is, I think, the future. Give me 1 minute. I'll be right back. Yeah, the stimulants as a way of dealing with it is, they didn't give us free water, but they gave us free coffee. So it's that is what it's like at work. And especially the energy drinks. I mean, I don't know how old you are. I'm 43, and I was working at the gas station when I was 18 years old when Red Bull came out. Maybe it came out a couple years before then, but the point is that was, maybe 3 years beforehand we had Red Bull. first hit the market. And so the working at a gas station, seeing young people come up and they would buy the energy drinks, the Nas, and all that. Very, very strong stimulants have been normalized. That in the '90s, none of that was even available. There was trucker crap, like the um, meth stuff, which they still have some of that. But yeah, and the thing is, so it sounds like you were self-medicating when you say addicted to multiple heavy stimulants. Not any doctor is going to give you that. But is that any different than somebody starting to take anxiety meds or depression meds or blood pressure meds? The to stay working, the average American ends up with several prescriptions pretty early, and with the very powerful psychological ones that we have that can get rid of all anxiety or impetus for change. It's a real unique moment that we're in, and getting away from that to be human is a big way it's a blessing. I feel like, yeah, no difference. And um, the point is, you try to minimize your drug use, and by moderating, you can do it for much longer. You'll live a better life in a lot of ways. Uh, but yeah, we have a normalized, you know, submission to work and to the status quo of things. And it's the worst seniors that I've met who make light of it, like, oh, well, you just got in here. You're going to learn not to try to help and all that. And they make light, they make it heavier on young people trying to make a difference. But yeah, yeah, life it's never been anything different. And the best part is we won't have to work to produce as much as we get better tools, better equipment. You'll have robots soon, walk four-legged robots, maybe robotic arms in your kitchen that are doing your dishes and cooking. And yeah, moderation. For me, it's whatever it takes to get me through the moment. And my consumption of Mary Jane has been pretty extreme for many years. I mean, it's just incredible how cheap it is now. Oh my God. Like when I started smoking, oh, it would be 400 for a really good ounce. Now it's $20. But yeah, the point that, celebration to within the extents of your vitality, um, it's part of it. The escapism is what we really have. You're 21 now. It's, yeah, single moms are a pretty great antidepressant. That is a fact. Although once you get to my age, they want to lock you down. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it's not that much stronger. I mean, we were already getting hash and stuff, and up in the 20% in the '90s. So we're 25% THC in the flower around there. Um, and when you go to a hash or a keef, but it's much stronger than it was in the '60s for sure. But by the '90s, most of that genetic work had been done, and the fertilizers and the timing, the light timing and the humidity and all that. So, but yeah, no, people are. The thing to realize is you say hard drugs, and then you talk about single moms. I mean, the feeling of a person who's trying to make you feel special is a hell of a drug. That direct ego service goes right into our, yeah. But so the point is, it is a hard drug. Socialization is a hard drug, and given that it is a hard drug, then doesn't that mean that we should limit it or that it should be taken in those ways? And the thing is, if you can find a single mom who's so on top of the game that she's just out to have fun, God bless you. But the point is, if you make money like I have, then they're like, okay, we're having sex now, pay my bills. And then the bills just grow. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you got to realize our culture is bombarding us with this is what you're supposed to get, you know, when you stop putting that projection into life. Yeah. Well, at 21, you can do that. Yeah. That's, yeah. I'm too old. Everybody looks at me like I'm a man child now, which is bullshit, but whatever. I mean, the idea of it in this moment, you really can live whatever life you want, and if you're breathing, you're living. If you're enjoying it, it's valid. If you're inspiring people, it's more than valid. It's a life of service. So it's this trying to force all of us into a white picket fence has just created so much unnecessary stress for a lot of people. And it's people that I just don't mix well with anymore because I've chosen an alternative value set, which is very gratifying. It all can. And it's good communication. You try to a relationship can be also it can be incredibly reinforcing. But is it done in harmony, or is one person coming into the relationship with an idea of what it's supposed to be and then berating the other person until it fits into what they're looking for? The latter's been most my experiences where and when I try to talk to them and say things like automation is going to change the world, 20 years ago they just said you're crazy, like nothing will ever change. And it's like, no, automation's coming and it's going to change the world, and a lot of people are going to find their work is no longer finding purchase in the overall economy. So that forces evolutions for everybody, and my partner should be with. Yep. Rock on. Yeah, good to see you, man. And follow. I intend to get on every other day for at least a couple hours in the meantime while I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do next with my life. So, and I'll see you at Liz's. See you around. We're online, right? So everybody's connected. So, uh, always welcome for the conversation. Take it wherever you want. Cheers. Well, that's my goal for the day. A couple hours, talk to whoever shows up. We can't fix hardly anything for anybody right now. I'm not positioned to do that. So, but that's not my job, as the tarot deck said. I did a lot of work trying to alert people that technology was coming. Now just wait and see what comes out of this. Although it looks like all our technology is a lot more expensive suddenly. Like if we would have done this 10 years ago, you know how cheap it would be to put machines in all around. It's like twice as expensive now for the hardware. And maybe that will change. Maybe China's going to give us a new hardware suite. Then we have the problem of we either pay 5 times as much for crappy Western technology, or we get called traitors for buying Huawei. Huawei! Anyways, that's a successful day. I did work. I can pat myself on the back. No, it's not work yet. But the conversation's the same as it ever was, and it's more about our intention and our coordination than anything else. So, as always, posted, saying hey to people. I will see you at latest in 2 days, and completely stable stream. I love that. Cheers.